Hey YouTube, welcome to another video. Before anything else, I would like to thank you for watching my videos and continuing to subscribe. We just hit another milestone of having 2,000 plus subscribers. As for this video, I would like to revisit the process of setting up a basic Umada network. In preparation for this, I have updated the firmware of all the devices that I have here to make sure everything is current. So let's get started. So for the equipment, I have an ER605, SG2210MP, and an EAP235 volt access point. I'm also going to use an OC300 for my controller. All of these devices are all version 1, so you can think of them as an OG. Like I mentioned earlier, I've already updated all their firmware, so when I adapt them, they should be up to date to whatever firmware is the current right now with TP-Link Umada. So for this video, we are going to start from the very beginning, from wiring all the devices up. Once they are all wired up, we're going to configure the controller. Once the controller is configured, we're going to do device adoption. And once the devices are adapted, we are going to create our very first VLAN. And after that, we're going to create wireless network. Afterwards, we are all going to run it up by testing and doing demonstrations so that you will know how everything works out in the end. This setup is based on router on stick configuration. It simply means that there is a single physical uplink between the internet gateway and the layer 2 switch. This single uplink will have multiple VLANs defined, such as admin VLAN 1, which is the system default VLAN, and another custom VLAN which I'm going to create, which is home VLAN 10. And this single uplink is usually called the trunk because the trunk will have multiple VLANs defined in them. And you can see this trunk is represented by a purple colored line. The same thing goes to the access point in here. This will also be called the trunk because there will be multiple VLANs flowing through this connection. As can be seen on the wireless clients, there is wireless client connected to the admin VLAN, and there are also wireless clients connected to the home VLAN, VLAN 10. So now let's proceed with wiring it up. I will start with the internet gateway and the wide area network uplink. Okay. So for the wide area network uplink, I have three cables in here. One is an Xfinity or Comcast, the other one is AT&T, and this will be my home PC connectivity. So I'm pinging the internet gateway 192.168.0.1, but because I don't have any cable connected, as you can see here, I have an error message in here. So this will be part of the monitoring process that we're going to check from time to time during the process of connectivity. So this is my internet gateway for an ER605, and oftentimes in almost all the Umada internet gateway that I have used in the past, the leftmost port is almost always the WAN port, and the rightmost port is almost always the LAN port. Of course, to be sure, always refer to your user manual. As I have mentioned earlier, this is my AT&T ISP, so I'm going to put it here. Okay, I'm going to go back to my diagram and show you what this line is on the diagram. For that connectivity, this is the one that I have completed. And now what I'm going to do next is connect the internet gateway to the layer 2 switch. So I'm going to connect the cable here. This is the rightmost port of ER605. This is almost always a LAN port. And I'm going to connect it to port 1 of the SG2210MP switch. So, it's connected. And if you're looking at the diagram, I'm hovering my mouse where that connectivity is represented. So between the ER605 and the layer 2 switch. The next connectivity that I'm going to do is to the access point. You can see here, there's another cable in here. And I'm using this port. I believe this is port 8 of SG2210MP. And I'm going to connect it to the EAP235 wall access point. So this is the uplink. And as you can see, this is the light, LED light, and let's see. So my SG2210MP is a PoE switch, and this should light up. There you go. It's lighting up and it should be booting up. Now that's connected. The next one that I will show the connectivity is between the switch and the OC300 controller. I'm using port 2 of the SG2210MP switch, and I'm using port 1 of the OC300. There you go. And now I will be connecting my home PC. So this home PC is currently showing as a home VLAN that's colored green, but it's going to be an admin VLAN because I don't have a home VLAN defined yet. But this will be the physical connectivity from the switch to my admin media PC. Let me show my, okay, showing that one, and I'm showing that one too. And this is my media PC. So if you're looking at the icons for my connectivity on the upper right window, says Ethernet is X. So let me hover my mouse here, and you can also see here the status update here. So I'm going to port 7. There you go. It says here identifying, and you can see here that it is applying. So one thing that you will notice is once that I'm connected, in here you will see here it shows that I already have internet access. So if I double click that, it shows internet access, because the default configuration of Omada internet gateways is that it will always provide internet once it's available. So the internet is flowing from my PC through the switch, going to the internet gateway, going to the AT&T uplink. Let's test that. And there you go. So that's pretty much it for the wiring. Everything is connected, and we can now begin checking the IP addresses of all the devices so we can start adapting them into Omada network. The very first thing that we need to find out in order for us to do the Omada configuration is the IP address of the Omada controller. So what I'm going to do is ping 192.168.0.100. The reason why I'm pinging 0.100 is that in the past, I always know that Omada will hand out the IP address starting from that 100 by default. Things might change. You can also test that 2 or that 3. But as I have mentioned, 100 usually works for me. And that's 100, and then there's 101. Let's check 102. Let's check 103. So I have 3 devices, so I believe 100, 101, and 102 will be sufficient enough. So what I can do now is go to my web console and try to open 192.168.0. Let's try that one, but this is the gateway, but I'll just want to show you what happens if I go to the gateway. So here. So this is the screen if your ER605 is not yet configured or adapted. It's asking to set an administrator account. So it needs to have a username, password, it needs to have confirm the password, and then to confirm it. Let's try 192.168.0.100. Proceed. So we're looking for the controller. So this one, I'm thinking it might be switched because it's the first device that I have connected. But let's go with the 101. The 101 is the controller. Okay, so let's get started. In this particular screen, it's asking for the controller administrator username. Okay, so this is for your OC300. So I'll put admin. I'm not gonna add any email and password. I'm going to use something very strong. Password 1 or password 01. Okay. So it says here must be a combination of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special symbols. So I'll do that and do that, and I need a special character plus. Okay. And then plus. Password 01 plus. I'm not going to use any cloud access for now, and I'm going to accept the terms of use. I'll click next. So it says here, how would you like to set up your new controller? So I'm going to click config new setup, but if you have a backup configuration or settings, you can restore from the backup. So for now, I will use config new setup. I'm going to give it a name, Omada controller 300. the controller country region will be in United States. I'm in Eastern time. There you go. I'll click next. So this one we need to create a site. I'm just going to call it home. So country region is United States, and this site will be in my home as well. So I'll set up Eastern time. Switch type, there is an easy manage. I'm just going to use smart L2 plus L3, and this one is the device account. For simplicity, I'm going to use the same username and password. You can see here admin password 01 plus, and this one is the application scenario. So I'm going to use home. There are multiple ones that you can select, but for this video I'm going to use home. I'll click next, and in this screen we can already configure the devices. I'm not sure what configure devices means here. I'm not going to configure these devices here, so I'm going to use skip because next is not available, so I'll just use skip. Configure one settings. I'm going to use the default setup of my ER605. I don't have any special requirements or configurations to get my wide area network running. And for now, I'll click next. For the Wi-Fi, I'm not going to create any Wi-Fi settings in here. Going to click next. It will not allow me, so I'll just click skip. And there you go, successful. The very first site has been created, and the Umada controller configuration is now complete. So I'll click finish. I just like to mention here as well that you can use an Umada app to configure your network, and in here you can scan the QR code. So for now, let me enter the password. There you go, and I'll click remember me so I don't have to keep logging in. And this one is not your screen. The first time I encountered this, I thought this was the console. This is actually a small guide or how-to or tutorial, and you can go through it like that or go back if you want to read more. And you can see here, you can actually turn it up as well, but let me just click through it one by one so you have an idea of how it looks. Go. And yeah, this is a tutorial. It's finished. So this is your main screen. This is the first time I'm seeing this type of screen. I'm not very used to this screen, so you might see me fumble a little bit. When I upgraded this, I was using the old software. So this is the very first time I'm seeing this particular UI as well. Let's see. So this is home. I can't see the drop down there anymore. Oh, it looks like the drop down is now here. So you can see this is the home network. This used to be in this area, but yeah, I guess it has been changed. I'm going to click home. This is the site that I have created earlier in the wizard. Because the next step after configuring your Umada controller is actually adapting your devices. Otherwise, you will not be able to configure your network devices. So click on your site, and the next step will be clicking the devices. But let me just check this new UI. Yeah, really interesting. In here says no internet. I remember you have to set up bandwidth speed so that this one shows something. Switches, clients, guests. So you can check all these options in here. I believe the tutorial should have covered that. I didn't really check that, so that's my bad. So let me just jump into the devices. Hopefully it's not changed too much. So as you can see here, these are the devices that I have. I have the gateway ER605 version 1.0. I have the layer 2 switch SG2210MP version 1.0 and EAP235-WOL version 1.0. So these are all OGs. So it says here the status is pending. This is very important. You need to adapt them. So the way I adapt my devices is I usually start from the outside in, and the baseline, or when I say outside in, is the gateway. So if I look on my diagram again, if the gateway is the baseline, the furthest device from the gateway is the access point, because it has to go to the switch and then to the access point. In the order of things, I will usually adapt the furthest device from the gateway. So this one, the next one will be the switch, and then the gateway. I don't need to adapt the controller because the controller is the one adapting these devices. But before I continue adapting, one thing that really helps me a lot is to make sure that the PC that I'm using to configure the network is directly connected to the controllers. Let me just go to the lab here, and this is what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do is transfer the connectivity of the OC controller from being connected to the switch to being connected directly to the gateway, and my admin PC will be connected to the OC300 controller instead of being connected to the layer 2 switch. And that's what I'm going to do in a few seconds. So let me just show you my status icon in here. Let me try pinging the gateway again. There you go. The very first thing that I'm going to transfer is my Ninja PC. So this one, as you can see, I will get disconnected, and I'm going to connect it to the controller, and I should be able to continue pinging after that. That means my connectivity through the gateway and to the internet is now working again. And now I'm going to transfer the connectivity from my SG2210MP switch to the ER605. So currently this is the connection, and once I remove this connection, my Ninja PC ping will be failing. There you go. But you can see on the icon that the cable is still connected, except that the connectivity is now disconnected because I don't have any connection to anywhere on the network. So I'm going to connect it here. Go, and I should be able to connect immediately. As you can see, now everything is connected. Go. So let me just do a refresh to make sure I'm still connected. I'm still connected. Now I'm going to start adapting them. Action, adapt. There you go. So let me start adapting them. But for now, it shows adapting in here. It should show connected once it's fully adapted. So it's provisioning. There you go, connected. The next one I'm going to adapt will be the switch. So let me adapt this one. I'm adapting, but it looks like everything is going well. And now I'm going to adapt the gateway. Provisioning, and there you go. Before I continue with the next step, there is an optional step that I usually take once everything is adapted. I usually give these devices a name. I click the device, I click config. So the name, I usually add the model of the device, 235-AP01. So the -AP means it's an access point and it's the first on the iteration, and then I'll click apply. And it says succeeded. That's pretty much it for that one. Okay, so let me click the other one. This one is the switch. Same thing, SG2210MP-AS01. So the AS means it's an access switch. If it's a distribution switch, I call it DS. If it's a backbone, I call it BS. So backbone switch. Okay. Let me click apply. Settings applied successfully. And then I'll go with the gateway, and then config. And this one will be ER605-GW01. Click apply. So that's good. Let me do a refresh on the dashboard or on the device list, and now you can see the names of these devices. We have completed adoption of the devices. So the next step is to create new VLANs. Let's go click settings, and yeah, this is another interface change. All this option used to be goes to the side, but now you hover it, you don't even have to click it, and it just opens a sub menu where all the other options can be accessed. I'll click LAN in here. As you can see here, I have a default VLAN 1. You can see here, default VLAN 1. So this is the system default. You cannot edit the VLAN 1, but you can edit the IP address of this network. And you can also see the switch profile in here. And these are the default system profiles. There is an old profile, there is a default profile, and there's a disabled profile. The old profile just means all the VLANs that you have created and defined will be in the old. So this is almost always a trunk unless you never created a new VLAN. So all will always be a trunk and always be your uplink to your devices so that you can adapt them. Okay, so let's go to the switch settings. Not much to see here at this point in time. So let me just go back to the networks and let's now begin creating a new VLAN. I'm going to create new LAN. For creating new LAN, you can put any names however you want. You can say, you know, home, you can say earth, you can say moon. It doesn't really matter. The name is just a description of your VLAN. What I found works for me best is add the VLAN ID as a prefix for the names. This is going to be VLAN 10, so I add 10 and then followed by the description of the VLAN, which in this particular case is going to be my home VLAN. The purpose, since this is a router on stick, the purpose will be interface. And for the LAN interfaces, these are the interfaces that you will see on your gateway. So if you're looking at the main screen, these are all the interfaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to use this one just because I would like to reserve this for wide area network, but these three I can use for local area network uplink. So for this one, I'll select this, I'll select this, and I'll select this, and I'm going to leave this one unchecked because I would like to reserve that for wide area network. The rightmost port is purely just LAN port. The rest of the other ports can be configured either as LAN or WAN port. This one will be 10. For the gateway, I will add 192.168.10.1, and for the subnet mask, I'll use /24. So this one will give me the gateway IP of 192.168.10.1. The broadcast IP will be the .255. With this particular configuration, I will have a total of 254 clients or devices available for me, and the network range will be from .1 to .254, and the subnet mask, because we use /24, it's going to be 255.255.255.0. And you can see here there are no values in here. You don't really have to type anything in here yet. The thing is that you just click update DHCP range so that it's automatically populated. Okay, so let me just scroll down in here. I normally skip the domain name. I don't really use that. It's optional, so don't worry about it too much. The IGMP snooping and MLD snooping is for avoiding multicast flooding. So this one is for the IPv4 and this one is for the IPv6, and you can find out more, I believe, if you hover your mouse on the I. Okay. DHCP server, I normally use this for my router on stick. What it just do is that it makes your ER605 as a DHCP server. That's well and good unless you have a different DHCP server. As for the DHCP range, I usually edit this to start from .100 as well. That's still plenty of devices for your network. For the DNS server, you can leave it as auto. Again, if you leave it as auto, the 192.168.10.1 will be the DNS server for all clients connecting to this VLAN. Or you can make it manual and add your own, like so. But for now, I'll leave it as auto. This time, I'm just going to leave it as default. The default gateway will be the same, auto. And I'm going to skip all of these settings because this is not needed for your basic network. And then I'll click save. Okay, so now that I have created that, I would like to demonstrate how you can get your IP addresses to those networks. So to do that, you have to go to the devices and change the profile of your port. So let's do that. Devices, and then click the switch. And you can see here going to the ports. And you can see here all of the ports are currently configured as all. If the profile is all, it means it's a trunk port. I'll configure port 7 as VLAN 10. Click the edit button here. And then on the profile, I'll select home and then click apply. Let's do that. I'm going to transfer my cable. So right now, let me check my IP address again. I should have the same IP of .120, as you can see here. But when I move my cable to 10-home, I will have an IP address starting from 192.168.10.100, and I should be getting an IP from that particular network. So do that. So if you're looking at the mini screen, this is my home PC, okay, and I'm connecting it here. Now it's replying, and let me check. And there you go, my IP address is now changed from 192.168.0.120 into something new coming from this VLAN, which is 192.168.10.100. So we have successfully completed configuring the switch and new VLAN. Let's move on to creating our wireless networks now. So as you can see here, I have a wireless network in here, wireless device. So I hover my mouse to the settings, and now I'm clicking wireless LAN. Let me click that, and let me just hide these settings, this window. As you can see, I don't have any wireless networks yet. So the very first one I'm going to create will be the admin wireless SSID. So do that. Let's just call it mother admin. Today is March 7th, so 207. This is just for demonstration purposes so that you will know that this is the admin Wi-Fi. So I'm going to select the device type as EAP, and I'm going to enable both 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz. I'm not going to create a guest network. So for the password, I'll do that. And that's it. That's pretty much the configuration to do here for this network, because this is the admin VLAN. You don't need to define any VLAN because the trunk uplink is already connected between the switch and the access point, meaning VLAN 1 is already flowing to this device, and VLAN 1 is the native network of that profile also. Let me click apply. There you go. And now if you look here on the right bottom corner, I'm waiting for the Umada 0307 network to appear. Oh, there you go. So connect, and I'm going to paste my password, which is password 01, and I'll just say yes. There you go, connected. So, and if I check the IP, so remember the IP address of this one is coming from .10, okay, and this one should be coming from the admin VLAN, so that's 0 something. Internet and details 0.103. Okay, so let's test that. There we go. So I'm going to remove my media PC. There you go. Let's see. You can see it still can continue to ping. Now if I disconnect this one, now it will request timeout because everything here is disconnected. And if you're looking at the mini screen, I'm going to put back my cable here. And now I'm back in the admin VLAN. Okay, still waiting. There you go. And let's see. Internet 0.120. Okay. So we have a wireless network that is connected to the admin Wi-Fi. So now let's create a new Wi-Fi that is connected to the home VLAN or VLAN 10. So create new wireless network. I'll call it Wi-Fi for you -10. Same exact settings in here, and I'll use the same password. However, since this one should be in VLAN 10, you need to click advanced settings in here. And just looking at it for the very first time, so custom, looks like it, yeah. So VLAN ID, and then you can type 10. But let's look by network, and oh, there you go. So this one is much easier. There is no room for error or typo, so this is a good change. You can select add VLAN and VLAN 10, VLAN home. Let's check it out together and see how this one works. But basically all you need to do is just add the VLAN tag in here as the native VLAN Okay, so click apply. So now I have a Wi-Fi for you. So I will start pinging again. There you go. And remember, my IP address is 192.168.0.120. And if you're looking at the main screen, I'm disconnecting my cable here. There you go. And I will be disconnected. And back to the desktop, I will be connecting to the Wi-Fi for you, this one. We can connect. Let's see. There you go, it's connected. And now let's check the IP address here. I should have something from 192.168.10. Click details, and there you go, 192.168.10.101. So I'm getting the IP address from the new wireless networks that we have created. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you like this video. If you learned something from this video, please give it a like. If you don't like this video, please give it a dislike. But do let me know what you don't like so that I will be able to make those changes in the future videos. Thank you for watching the videos. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you and bye bye.